Hi, it's the Reckless Retiree here. I'm back from my trip to Virginia where I helped my daughter and her husband get their house ready for sale. So I'm back to the project. Then I have my cell here. I moved it outside next to my furnace. So I have my cell here, which I showed you last time was producing copious amounts of gas. I don't know how much, but hopefully sufficient. Yesterday I fired it up out here and I had a really bad leak in the cell. I just tightened it up dramatically and hopefully that will take care of that problem. We'll see. So over here in the furnace I have the foundry that King of Random shows how to make, and I've melted aluminum in there with makeshift crucible out of a steel pipe there. Since then I've gotten real crucibles. This big one I hope to do aluminum. This is a medium-sized one I hope to do my samples in, and this is one that I was using before. Right now I have one that is fire brick. It's cut, made into a, it was supposed to be for the electric arc melting of metal according to King of Random. But so I have some material in there that didn't get melted sufficiently. And so I got some of this fire brick from a friend of mine and got my makeshift furnace, if you will. I have a propane heater heating it right now. And over here I show the temperature, which is not believable. Well, actually it is believable because that's the temperature inside of the crucible. If it's reading right, which I don't know that it is. Anyway, my thought was that I would heat it up with the propane torch as hot as I could get it. Then I would plug in, just got a leaf down my back. I would plug in my cell, and then this is the torch with the cell. Did I show that? No. Here, this is the torch with the cell, and it's going into the same place. You can see how that fire brick is getting nice and cherry red from the propane. So my dream is that I will plug in the hydrogen cell, HHO cell, and this will all be already going and hot, and so hopefully it'll first force out the air that's in the cell, and then as it produces gas, it'll come out more and more of the HHO gas, and my hope is that it will just ignite and begin to burn and get much hotter. The only thing I've done so far is make bubbles, soapy bubbles, which over in that bucket over there, I did it yesterday, made soapy bubbles, and then lit them and they exploded, and so I don't want explosions, hopefully. So there we go. Cross your fingers and we'll see what happens. I had the thermocouple plugged in the wrong way, and so it was reading wrong. It was going down and temperature set up. So now I have it plugged in right. I don't know if you can see that. I'll check. It's 94 degrees Fahrenheit in the cell. I guess I'm going to have to get up on it. All right. So I guess I could just leave it here. The ground's uneven here. So to have a even camera, I need to adjust it a bit. Well, that's going to be, but if you can see that. Okay, so down below here I have an extension cord, and I have the cord that goes to the cell. I have the fluid. Let's see. Where am I at here? Okay, let me move some stuff. Okay, so here we have the fluid, the electrolyte, potassium. Well, I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, it's a really good, really good electrolyte. It's in the cell. My cell was leaking, so I have quite a bit of fluid in the bottom of this bucket, which in the interaction with the cell tightening it, I ended up cracking that. But anyway, so now I'm going to plug in the cell. We'll see a tremendous amount of bubbling here, hopefully, and the gas will be going down this tube to that torch. This is going. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's going. So here we go. This is the dream. We're up to 103 degrees Fahrenheit with the propane so far. I could wait until it gets as hot as it's going to get, but I'm impatient, so there you go. So I got my lab coat on in case it explodes and splatters me with the liquid, but I'm going to be standing around the corner of the shed, hopefully protect myself from any craziness. Of course, you know, you got to peek around the corner. But here we go. Okay, you can see the bubbling in the cell already. Not cell, the bubbler. Maybe it's working because my temperature is going up quite a bit. Of course, I have to go as high as 3,200 degrees. And the thing that's funny about this experiment is that if I do get an elevated temperature such as that, the thermocouple is going to fail working because it's not designed to measure that high a temperature. But it's definitely climbing, and I'm thinking the only reason it's climbing is because I'm now putting out some HO into that burning chamber. But I got a long way to go to 3,200 degrees, don't I? From 114. We'll just have to see how high it gets. Because I'm not measuring, right now I'm not measuring where the heat is being produced. I'm measuring in the crucible, if you will. The temperature of the material in the crucible. And it's got to get to 3,200 degrees and melt platinum. In Cody's lab, he used a furnace that heated to 2,000 degrees. Put his crucible in and got it up to 2,000. And that was high enough to melt the material. Maybe I don't need to get 3,200 degrees because that was hot enough to melt the material he gathered from the road mixed with the flux. He raised it up to 2,000 degrees, and then he poured it out And you can see his video on YouTube on street mining for platinum, I think is what it's called. I've only watched it about 30 times, trying to get my act together. Learning. Trying to learn how to do this. So anyway, he poured it out once it was molten, and the lead and the other metals, precious metals that it bonded to, separated from the slag. Thing is, I can't afford, right now, I can't afford an electric furnace that will heat to 2,000 degrees. I've looked for used ones, even those are out of range. My dream is that I can do it this way, buy a shoestring, get some platinum, and then take that platinum, turn it around, put it back into the project, get some better equipment. But first I've got to reach temperatures of 2,000 degrees to melt. And I'm got up to 127. Wow. At this rate, it might take all day or even all week to get the temperature. The question is, am I actually burning HHO? And this stuff kind of scares me. I'm still doing it because I'm the reckless retiree. But the way that those soap bubbles explode, and there's just a little bit of gas there, you can imagine how a lot of this gas would explode. You know, one thing you should definitely have is a flash arrestor, which I don't really have. I'm sure it would blow the top off of that bubbler before it would blow up my cell, and blow me up for that matter. I also have steel wool in the torch, which is supposed to keep it from flashing back. Although you're supposed to use stainless steel, and I didn't have stainless steel, so I used regular steel wool, and of course that's going to corrode. And I've had the fluid in my torch, and so there's a good chance that fluid has corroded that stainless steel, or the non-stainless steel, the steel wool. But I'm up to 136 degrees, which I don't think is just from the propane. So now I'm going to screw up a little bit of courage and go around and see if I actually see the torch lit. Well, I have the fire brick piled up on top to try to hold the heat in such a way as that I can't see the end of the torch. But one would think that the gas is coming out the end of that torch, and it's in the flame chamber, so therefore it would have to be lit, right? And I'm up to 141 degrees, so it's kind of popping. Yeah, it's definitely popping. So it must be going on and off, in other words. Well, I'm just going to let it go. I'll leave the camera running. That way only the camera will get blown up. I'm going to go get some drink because I'm really thirsty. And we'll see. Okay, 156 coming up. Now, one thing could be a problem is that, and it most likely will be a problem, but look at the gas is being made quite well now. You can see that fluid in the bubbling reservoir dancing. So it's producing a lot of gas. That gas is being fed, has to be being fed into that torch. And what I was going to say is a negative is that at some point that metal pipe that is the torch will get hot enough that it will melt that plastic tube feeding it the gas. I don't know when that's going to be, what temperature that will be. I can periodically go over. What I need to do, what would be ideal, is to have a second thermocouple reading the temperature of the torch. And of course, what would be ideal? Ideal would be some high temperature material, either Teflon or, I don't know. These freaking ladybugs all over me. So anyway, what I was going to say is either a metal pipe, steel, feeding it from the chamber, or something high temperature plastic up to 163 in the crucible, and the gas is being produced. Actually, I think as time goes on, it seems to be more and more. Huh. Well, one thing I don't want to do, one thing I want to avoid is collecting the gas under pressure, because I want to make it on demand so there's less chance of explosion. Right now, the only gas that's going to explode is the gas that's at the top of that bubbler, which is a fair amount, especially